Will the Hammers reign supreme in Europe, or will Fiorentina spoil the biggest party in East London? It's Premier League stalwarts West Ham against their Italian opponents Fiorentina in this year's Europa Conference League Final. Founded in 1895, West Ham United are another one of London's historic football clubs. Based in the East End, they are renowned for their boisterous fan base, especially when they played their games at the old Upton Park Stadium. Of course, was also home to Sir Bobby Moore, England's 1966 World Cup winning captain. And now, West Ham are appearing in their first major European final since 1976. On that occasion, they lost the UEFA Cup Winners' Cup final to Anderlecht of Belgium. West Ham won the Cup Winners' Cup all the way back in 1965, beating 1860 Munich in the final, led of course by the great Bobby Moore. Between 1964 and 1980, they also managed to win the FA Cup 3 times, but they have never been crowned English Football League champions. And needless to say, the current fan base will know very little about winning trophies, let alone experiencing going to cup finals in Europe, but now they have their opportunity to go for continental silverware. Fiorentina, on the other hand, were established in the stunning city of Florence, Italy, a little later in 1926, and then refounded in 2002 following bankruptcy. Their European history is not dissimilar to their final opponents this year, as they also picked up a European Cup Winners' Cup in the 60s, 61 to be exact, defeating Rangers of Scotland in the final. Fiorentina have picked up 6 Coppa Italia titles in their history, as well as 2 historic top division Serie A league championships in 1956 and 1969. Again, similarly to the Hammers, there is a nice sprinkle of success in their history, but it is now the distant past, and Fiorentina fans have been lamenting a lack of success for decades. They too now have a chance to turn their fortunes around. Like the Europa League final this year, the Conference League final also has the added edge that both of its participants have failed to qualify for any European competition next year. They weren't able to do so with their domestic league finishes, so this final is their only chance. West Ham had a poor first half to the season and needed a recent turn of form to break away from a tricky relegation battle between 5 or 6 teams in England's Premier League. Fiorentina are fixed firmly in mid-table in Italy, with neither relegation nor a real fight for Europe ever forming part of their thinking, perhaps aiding their ability to take on Europe every other Thursday night in this year's Conference League. So both teams will battle it out on Wednesday, June the 7th for a shot at European silverware for the first time since the 1960s, as well as a much coveted place in next year's UEFA Europa League group stage, and as a top seed in the group stage draw no less. The 2 clubs will go to war in the Fortuna Arena in Prague, Czech Republic, and this year's legacy, as well as next year's budget, is very much at stake. West Ham and Fiorentina started off the Conference League group stages this year as the only representatives from their respective nations, and both sides cruised into the knockout rounds. West Ham won 6 from 6 in their group, and Fiorentina only picked up a solitary defeat in theirs. Sterner challenges would be left to come, but both sides felt comfy among the early stages. As English and Italian clubs, they are 2 of the most financially supported sides in this competition, and so they lived up to expectation. Fiorentina, however, did miss out on top spot in the group to Istanbul Başakşehir on goal difference, and so to arrive to the upcoming final in Prague, they have played one more tie than the Hammers. That was a routine victory in the end, 7-2 on aggregate against Braga of Portugal. In the round of 16, both teams found it easy again, West Ham winning 6-0 on aggregate against AEK Larnaca of Cyprus, and Fiorentina seeing off Sivasspor of Turkey, 5-1 over 2 legs. In the quarters, West Ham could only draw in their first leg tie against Ghent of Belgium, but they turned on the style in the second leg to win easily 4-1. Fiorentina would lose the second leg of their tie against Lech Poznan of Poland, but then again they had done the business in the first game. With their own 4-1 victory, they were already well on their way to the Conference League semi-finals. It's worth noting that though the 2 sides seemed to be cruising through these rounds, they were suffering domestically. Fiorentina only managed 14 league wins all season. Having said that though, it's their second final of the year. They were recently defeated by Inter Milan in the Coppa Italia, so it's a real up and down season for La Viola. West Ham were buoyant going into this season after last year's European run and impressive 7th place finish in the Premier League. They have finished this campaign way down in 14th, losing over half of the games played. Topsy-turvy season for the Hammers. Fiorentina needed extra time to overcome FC Basel of Switzerland in the Conference League semis, whilst West Ham battled hard on and off the pitch to overcome AZ Alkmaar of the Netherlands, 3-1 on aggregate, setting us up for a wonderful clash of rather unusual football colours in the final. La Viola, the purple wave of Tuscany, against the famous claret and blue of the Irons. Both teams are extremely well followed and could probably pack out double or even triple the relatively modest 20,000 capacity of the final venue in Prague. It will be bright and noisy in that ground on June 7th. Both sides have been on and off it at times this year, but will trust that their support and their on-pitch strengths are enough to take them to glory. In what may well be his final ever game for West Ham, England central midfielder Declan Rice will be key for the Hammers if they are to win and lift the trophy. His fantastic all-round midfield play has attracted the likes of Manchester United and Arsenal, and even Bayern Munich, to battle it out for his signature in a deal that could happen in the region of £80 to £100 million this summer. Coming through the ranks in the last few years at West Ham, Rice will want to go out on a high note for sure. Jared Bowen was West Ham's star man last year, but he has not been able to continue that splendid form. Meanwhile, Michail Antonio's momentum also seemed to seize up this campaign. Hammers fans will believe that if they can return to their best for 90 minutes in Prague, then the Italians will not be able to deal with their speed, power and quality. They have been boosted by the addition of Lucas Paqueta in midfield this year too. The Brazilian brings an extra slice of class, and on paper, this West Ham side are fit to be champions. Fiorentina have fighting spirit though. They even went 1-0 up in their recent cup final against Inter before being turned over by a very strong Milan side. Since February, they've defeated Inter, AC Milan and most recently Roma in the league. They are not to be taken lightly. World Cup winner Nicolas Gonzalez is a fan favourite in Florence, with the Moroccan Sofian Amrabat and Serbian Luka Jovic also bringing amazing quality and physicality to their side. Brazilian forward Arthur Cabral leads the line for the Purples with 14 goals this season. The ex-Palmeiras man has scored 7 of those in 13 Conference League appearances. Maybe he will be a thorn in the side of the Irons, but Fiorentina certainly have threats that need to be taken very seriously. Sofian Amrabat was one of the revelations of the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. He bossed the midfield for Morocco to help them reach the semi-finals and go further than any African side has ever gone at in a World Cup finals. Luka Jovic was somewhat of a prodigy a few years ago. Sadly for him, the big money move to Real Madrid didn't exactly work out, but on his day he is still a pretty unstoppable centre forward. The prize will be glittering and historic, and Europa League qualification would really help either of these clubs to bring in some serious reinforcements in the summer and continue to drive on their successful pathways next year. Who will come out on top to continue this incredible European journey, and who will be left stuck in the tracks? It's set up to be a brilliant final between West Ham and Fiorentina. We are expecting goals and excitement from this one. Both sides have scored in every single knockout leg that they've played this year. If Roma and Sevilla have bored us in the Europa League final, don't worry, West Ham and Fiorentina have a track record of box-to-box action. Who do you think will create a magic story for their current generation of fans, and one that will be told to future generations? Let us know your prediction in the comments below. Enjoy the final!